011 Beth's uncle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After slicing the eggs, Jiujiu scooped them out of the pot into 2 bowls, grabbed a fork for Beth, and told her to dig in while they were hot. Then he picked up his own bowl and started eating with chopsticks. Thanks, Beth said, grabbing the fork, and eagerly started to shovel in big bites. Finishing up, Beth let out a satisfied burp, then blushed. Oh, excuse me. I haven't had a meal this good in ages, got a little carried away. Jiujiu waved a hand dismissively. No worries. I'm stuffed too. Don't sweat it. He pulled out 2 bottles of water from his pack, twisted the cap off one, and handed it to Beth. Then he cracked open the other and took a long swig. Beth, having lived through the apocalypse for over a year, hadn't tasted water this clean in a long time. She practically clung to the bottle, gulping it down. Even as she drank greedily, it was clear she was being careful not to waste a single drop. Jiujiu, on the other hand, was way more casual, even a little wasteful. Water dribbled from the corners of his mouth, down his chin, and onto his clothes. From Beth's perspective, the sunlight catching his face created an almost unreal image. Suddenly, she saw Jiujiu as imposing and attractive, making her heart skip a beat. Beth wasn't exactly naive when it came to guys. She'd even had a boyfriend before the world went to hell. While things hadn't gotten too serious, there had been kissing, hugging, the whole deal. Now, she realized she was developing feelings for Jiujiu, someone she'd only known for a few hours. She recognized it as infatuation, a totally unexpected crush. Of course, Beth kept all this bottled up. Jiujiu didn't notice a thing, maybe because he was so clueless. Otherwise, he might have picked up on something in her eyes. As Beth requested, they stayed put, hoping Daryl would find them. Unfortunately, despite outrunning the zombies, Daryl got lost trying to find his way back to the villa. It was fate, he'd never find Beth again. Though bummed and regretful, Daryl trudged on, blaming himself. Around 10 that night, Daryl reached the railroad tracks and thankfully spotted Maggie's message. He followed the clues, lagging behind Maggie, Glenn, and the others. As darkness fell, Jiujiu magically produced a tent from his backpack and offered it to Beth without a second thought, telling her to sleep inside while he kept watch by the fire. Beth was deeply touched. She set up the tent with his help and crawled inside, but sleep wouldn't come. It wasn't because she feared danger, like a sudden zombie attack. She wasn't worried Jiujiu would sneak into the tent and take advantage of her, not with him standing guard, and Werewolf able to take down any zombies that came close. She was simply grateful to Jiujiu for saving her, for looking after her, and couldn't help but feel drawn to him. Meanwhile, Jiujiu wasn't paying attention to Beth at all. He was taking advantage of the quiet to slip into his workshop and churn out more traps, working against the clock. Mechanical traps were powerful weapons, and even with 5 already made, Jiujiu didn't think it was enough. He wouldn't dare take on a massive horde without 100 or so. After finishing some traps, he carefully designed a crossbow for Beth. It was a repeating crossbow just like his, except it could only fire steel ball bearings. Not that Jiujiu was being cheap, but he didn't trust Beth's aim at long range. He knew the crossbow's 150-meter range was too much for her to handle. With a crossbow that could fire 30 ball bearings in a row, Jiujiu figured Beth could adapt within 50 meters. He could spend a few days training her to shoot. Compared to his crossbow, this one was much lighter and smaller. Weighing only 6 pounds, Beth should be able to get used to it quickly and not become a liability when they faced a large group of zombies. Jiujiu knew that at the rescue station, the zombies weren't the only threat. The camp leader, Gray, and his goons were also trouble. For over an hour, Beth tossed and turned. Looking over at Jiujiu, she saw him stretching in front of the fire after finishing up his work in the workshop. He looked tired from sitting so long. She scolded herself for being so reserved. What was she waiting for? Why worry about gender roles? Jiujiu, who saved her, was sitting all alone by the fire, not even resting. Besides, she was starting to like him, even though she'd only known him for 10 hours. That reminded her of her sister and Glenn. The 2 sisters had talked about it privately. She also knew that Glenn and her sister had only known each other for a few days before hooking up in the pharmacy. Glenn was Asian, and so was Jiujiu, so what was the big deal? If her sister could be with Glenn, an Asian guy, then she could definitely be with Jiujiu. The thought of being with him made her blush and feel giddy. She remembered the funny stories about Asian guys she and her best friend used to swap at school. Judging by Jiujiu's behavior, Beth guessed he liked her too. Why else would he treat her so well? He'd gone back to look for Daryl, cooked for her, and let her have the only tent. If he didn't like me, what else could it be? This Asian guy was probably like most Asian guys. Even if he liked a girl, he wouldn't be the type to make a move or chase after her. 012 Beth's gift, continuous steel ball mechanical crossbow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Basically, Chinese guys tend to be shy and reserved, but they treat their girlfriends really well. Thinking about that, Beth couldn't stop replaying the image of Jiujiu taking down that walker. His face kept flashing in her mind, filling her thoughts. Ignoring her hesitation, Beth boldly said to Jiujiu, "You can sleep in the tent." Jiujiu had just woken up from the space and was completely caught off guard by Beth's words. Huh? What did you say? Beth, now emboldened, jumped right in before he could ask anything else. It's dangerous out here. You need your rest, and I don't want you to be tired tomorrow just because you gave me the tent. You should sleep in there. It's big enough for 2 people anyway. Jiujiu, finally snapping out of his daze, thought to himself, this girl is inviting me into the tent. Why would I say no to that? Turning to Beth, he wanted to be sure. Are you sure about this, Beth? Beth, despite her boldness, was a little put off by his question. She huffed and said, "Humph. Are you coming in or not? Because I'm about to pass out." That was all Jiujiu needed to hear. He said okay, got up, and went into the tent. Beth heard him come in, but she was too shy to face him. She turned her back, secretly hoping he would make a move. Jiujiu, all talk and no action, saw her back turned and just plopped down in the spot she had vacated, stretching out with a sigh before drifting off to sleep. Too bad there was a pretty girl right next to him. Even though she probably didn't smell like roses after days without a shower, she was still setting his pulse racing. Neither of them managed to sleep for more than 10 minutes, and Beth's restlessness slowly subsided. But as her nerves calmed, her feelings for Jiujiu only intensified. She knew her hunch had been right. Guys like Jiujiu, true to form, were considerate and wouldn't try to force anything on a girl. With that thought, Beth suddenly spoke. Seeing Beth turn to face him, Jiujiu's heart skipped a beat, faster than when he faced the walkers. Seeing Beth's face so close, Jiujiu couldn't resist reaching out and gently touching her cheek. He looked her straight in the eyes and said, "As long as you're with me, as long as you stay by my side, I'll do everything I can to protect you and love you." Beth was deeply touched by the sincerity in his eyes. Since the world fell apart, even with her dad, Shell, and her sister Maggie watching out for her, she never felt truly safe. Even with the prison boys she'd dated, or later with Daryl, that feeling of security just wasn't there. But right now, with Jiujiu, she felt safe. She was so overcome that she couldn't help herself. She moved closer, tilted her head up, and said, "Then what are you waiting for? Love me." After getting dressed, Jiujiu walked out of the tent and started making a fire to cook. After he left, Beth finally woke up for real. Hearing Jiujiu moving around outside, she felt completely content and full of affection. When Beth got up and had breakfast, Jiujiu presented her with the mechanical crossbow he'd made. He looked at her and said, "All right, babe. This is the crossbow I made for you, the one that shoots steel ball projectiles. I'm gonna teach you how to use this bad boy to take down some walkers." Beth was instantly intrigued. She knew Jiujiu had a crossbow that could fire steel balls and arrows in rapid succession, but on closer inspection, this one looked similar to yesterday's, but was noticeably smaller. Curious, she took the crossbow from Jiujiu. He patiently showed her how to change the magazine and how to string the crossbow. It was actually pretty simple. And it wasn't like Beth was a stranger to guns. After more than a year on the road, she knew how to handle them. While a crossbow was obviously different, it wasn't that different from a rifle. The only difference was gunpowder versus mechanics. As for accuracy, Jiujiu wasn't worried. Beth might not be a crack shot at long range, but she was more than competent within 50 yards. After getting familiar with the crossbow, Beth picked a target 50 meters away and started practicing. Jiujiu had prepared 5 magazines for her. He watched her empty one and reload, then he reloaded it again for her. Although these projectiles were smaller, with the system's enhancements, they were as powerful as pistol rounds. Within 50 meters, the steel balls could break weak bricks and embed themselves deeply in tree trunks. 013 Outside the rescue station. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Beth was thrilled with the gift Jiujiu had given her. It was a weapon that could fire continuously with power comparable to a pistol, but the best part was how quiet it was. Beth practiced with it constantly. Even though it was smaller than a pistol, the mechanical crossbow still took some getting used to. To really master the weapon, Beth spent 2 days firing nearly 50 magazines of steel ball bullets. They hadn't seen Daryl or any other survivors from the prison yet, so Jiujiu and Beth continued their journey. For Beth, it was just wandering, but Jiujiu had a clear goal: find the railroad tracks and follow Maggie's messages to the rescue station. Completing Task 2, Google search TWKAN.in 3 days, Jiujiu built 9 more mechanical traps. He now had 14 in his space, giving him the confidence to take on thousands of zombies alone if he had to. After walking for over an hour, they finally reached the railroad tracks. Another half hour, and they found a message written by Maggie in zombie blood. Beth saw it and immediately cried out with joy. She'd lost her mother and brother at the farm, and her father, Herschel, at the prison. In all the chaos, her sister Maggie hadn't known if she, Glenn, or anyone else had made it. Now, seeing her sister's message and being with someone she really liked, Beth couldn't contain her happiness. She threw her arms around Jiujiu, jumping up and down and cheering, "Oh, honey, look. My sister's alive. My family's alive. Can you believe it?" Jiujiu couldn't help but remember how, during their intimate moments, Beth had also called him honey. The word made his blood rush, and he almost lost control and wanted to get intimate with Beth right there, but he pushed those thoughts aside when he saw Beth's tears of joy. A guy with a heart can't stand seeing his girl cry, and Jiujiu was no exception. Regaining his composure, Jiujiu pulled Beth close, hugging her tightly and gently patting her back. "Hey, Beth, don't cry. It's a good thing your sister's alive, right? Why the tears? And besides, I'm your boyfriend now. I should meet your sister, shouldn't I?" Beth snuggled into Jiujiu, wiping her tears on his clothes, then looked up at him affectionately. "Thank you for being so sweet, honey. I'm so glad I met you." She stood on tiptoe, put her lips to Jiujiu's, and gave him a long, passionate kiss. Jiujiu couldn't resist. The beautiful woman was initiating a sweet kiss, and he responded with enthusiasm. If they weren't in the middle of nowhere, Jiujiu would have wanted to take it further with Beth right then and there. He was so impulsive because, in both his lifetimes, he'd never been with a woman, not even holding hands or kissing, except for his mother, and now he was with a cute, beautiful blonde like Beth. His only regret was that she wasn't the tall, muscular type, which was a bit of a disappointment. They kissed passionately for 10 minutes, until their lips were numb. Then, reluctantly, they separated and continued walking hand in hand along the railroad tracks. Unbeknownst to them, just 10 minutes before they arrived, Carol and Tyrese, along with Judith, who was only a little over a year old, had passed by. They were the last group from the original prison to head to the rescue station. Maggie, Glenn, Rick, Carl, Michonne, Daryl, Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, Sasha, Tara, and the others who were still alive had already made it to the station. If nothing unexpected happened, all of them except Carol and Tyrese would be imprisoned by Grace, the cannibal leader of the rescue station. Jiujiu and Beth were moving much faster than Carol and her group, but because of their delay earlier, they would eventually meet in front of the cabin outside the rescue station. Jiujiu and Beth weren't worried about danger. Warwolf was on guard, scouting ahead. They even talked as they walked to break up the monotony of the journey. Jiujiu was eager to complete the third hidden task and get the modification blueprints for a motorcycle. Judging by the first two blueprints and the resulting items, there was some pretty advanced technology involved. Not only could the mechanical crossbow fire continuously, but could that even be manufactured with today's technology? Maybe Tony Stark could build one. Although he hadn't used the mechanical traps yet, Jiujiu was confident that they would be powerful, and once he transformed a motorcycle in his space according to the blueprint, Jiujiu was sure it would be unlike any other vehicle in the world. There were bus stops all along the way, each marked with Maggie's messages, making Beth as happy as a lark and talking non-stop. Jiujiu worried she'd lose her voice from talking so much after more than 2 days of walking. Maggie's messages had become instructions for the prison survivors to gather at the rescue station. Clearly, Maggie had met up with Glenn and the others, so she changed the message. This only fueled Beth's desire to hurry up and reunite with her family. Jiujiu indulged her and picked up the pace. Finally, as they neared the rescue station, they caught up with Carol and Tyrese. Beth recognized them from a distance. Tyrese's back was easy to recognize, and Carol's long silver hair stood out. Beth recognized the two of them just by seeing their backs. Seeing them ahead, Beth couldn't help but cheer. "Oh, my God. Is that Carol and Tyrese? You're alive. That's amazing." Hearing the shouts behind them, Carol and Tyrese turned around in surprise. First, she saw Beth, her face radiant with happiness, full of energy and looking healthy. Then she saw Jiujiu, fully armed, and the powerful, high-tech metal dog beside him, War Wolf. 014 Mission 3 triggered. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Carol's initial joy morphed into vigilance, but that hard look vanished in an instant, replaced by a gentle expression that was instantly disarming. Google search reading, *, but isn't that rifle in your hand a bit out of character for a sweet mom like you? Card-carrying mom, maybe, *. Jiujiu thought to himself. He knew Carol didn't fully trust him. This act was just a way for her to lull their enemies into complacency and protect herself. Beth didn't notice anything amiss. She rushed forward and threw her arms around Carol, giving her a big hug and excitedly filling her in on everything. Seeing the two women embracing and chatting, Jiujiu and Tyrese exchanged shrugs. Jiujiu took the initiative to say hello. "Hey, you must be Tyrese, right? Beth's told me about you. I'm Jiujiu, I'm from China. Just call me Yi." Tyrese's honest face showed a forced, half-hearted smile. He nodded to Jiujiu. "Hello, Yi. I'm Tyrese." After that, Tyrese clammed up and stared at the ground. Jiujiu understood. Tyrese had lost all hope. Ever since his girlfriend had been burned alive in prison, he'd been ready to die. Only the thought of his sister, Sasha, and Judith, kept him going. After a while, Carol took Beth's hand and walked over to Jiujiu. Carol's expression was genuinely gentle now. "Hello, Yi. I'm Carol, I'm Beth's family. Thank you for saving Beth." Jiujiu shrugged again. "Hey, Carol. No need for thanks. Beth probably told you, we're together, so protecting her is what I should do, right?" Carol smiled, appreciation shining in her eyes, but Beth, bubbling with excitement, interrupted. "Uncle, Carol, can we catch up later? Is there a rescue station up ahead? Can we go see Maggie and Glenn? We can chat properly then." Carol and Jiujiu exchanged helpless glances, but they both smiled fondly at Beth's enthusiasm and nodded. Beth and Carol led the way, while Jiujiu and Tyrese brought up the rear. War Wolf had already gone ahead to scout. As they walked, Jiujiu glanced at the lifeless Tyrese and finally spoke. "Tyrese, wouldn't you say that in this messed up apocalypse, having family to care about is a good thing?" He didn't wait for a response, continuing, "We've all lost a lot in this world, relatives, friends, even lovers. But we haven't lost everything. We still have friends and family. We need to live for them. Compared to those who are zombies, we're lucky, right? Tyrese, for your sister's sake, you need to live, so she doesn't have to be alone." Jiujiu fell silent. He knew when to stop talking. Some things just needed time to sink in. His focus now was on completing Mission 3, taking out the cannibal leader, Gray, and his crew, Leader Gray, 0/1, and accomplices, 0/61. Completion would earn him 1,000 experience points. Yes, Beth and Carol's reunion had completed Task 2, escorting Beth to the rescue station. This triggered the next mission. The 500 experience points from Task 2 had bumped Jiujiu up another level. His stats now read: Name, Jiujiu, age, 16 years old, occupation, mechanical hunter, level 5, 200/600, stats strength, 5. Stamina, 5. Intelligence, 7. Spirit, 7. Agility, 7. Speed, 15 meters/second energy, 700, 7 points/minute recovery rate, professional talents and skills, 0.1. Junior Combat Master. 2. Junior Mechanical Manufacturing Master, Pet, Mechanical Dog, Werewolf, Mount, None, Special Space, 100 square meters of mechanical manufacturing space, 14 mechanical traps, blueprints, None, Note, Time Travel Function available 0 times, Note, the only mainline Super God level mission, kill Thanos and his henchmen. Successful missions reward 6 cosmic gems. Mission 3 wasn't inherently difficult. The biggest risk was the cannibals' arsenal of rifles. Their rifles could hit targets from hundreds of meters away. Compared to Jiujiu's mechanical crossbow's 150-meter range, they had a clear advantage. Figuring out how to eliminate these monsters while staying safe was what occupied Jiujiu's thoughts. Carol and Beth, walking ahead, overheard Jiujiu and Tyrese. Beth was thrilled, thinking her boyfriend was wonderful. Hearing about the prison and seeing Tyrese's mood, he'd offered comfort. Carol felt differently. She was the one who had killed Tyrese's girlfriend, but she truly didn't want to see Tyrese become so numb. She hoped Jiujiu's words would resonate. Tyrese was experiencing a whirlwind of emotions. He pictured his dead girlfriend, then his sister Sasha, their faces intertwined in his mind, eventually merging. He saw them both smiling at him. Werewolf, scouting ahead, suddenly froze and adopted an attack stance. This brought the group to an immediate halt. They were all experienced warriors. Except for the somewhat detached Tyrese, Jiujiu, Carol, and Beth reacted with alert movements. Jiujiu stepped forward and addressed Carol and Beth. Something's up. Werewolf has high intelligence and perception. He can sense danger. Let's be careful. He then added, I'll go ahead with Werewolf. Follow me, but stay back. I'll check for danger. Jiujiu and Werewolf moved forward quietly, creeping toward the dimly visible cabin ahead. In front of the cabin, a cannibal was squatting on the ground, responsible for attracting zombies. He was talking into an intercom and fiddling with some fireworks, completely unaware of his surroundings. Seeing that the man was oblivious, Jiujiu silently ordered Werewolf to attack, not to kill, but to knock him unconscious. 015 Infiltration Assassination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The wolf warrior sprang into action, knocking the guy out cold before he even knew what hit him. Turns out, before the knockout, he'd overheard the guy muttering about knife girl and other nasty stuff. Jiujiu came out, hog-tied the unconscious man, gagged him, and hauled him into the cabin. Watching Jiujiu, Carol silently approved. Beth, on the other hand, figured whatever her man did was okay by her. Tyrese looked uneasy, thinking it was a bit much to treat a stranger like that. Once inside, as they were about to grill the guy, they picked up killed 8 people over the radio. After waking him, Jiujiu crouched down, staring him in the face. You from the rescue station? What are you doing here? Why the killing? The guy strained against his binds, making muffled noises, trying to get the gag off. Jiujiu yanked it out and waited for him to talk. Hey, I'm from the rescue station up ahead. You're here to find it, right? Let me go, I'll take you there now. Jiujiu knew it was a stall tactic to lure them into a trap. He curled his lip. Tell me about the knife girl. What's this about killing 8 people? The guy's face froze. He hemmed and hawed, unable to come up with an explanation. Jiujiu turned to Carol and Beth. Looks like this rescue station is bad news. It's not about saving people, it's about killing them. And my policy with those kinds of people is simple, kill them before they hurt anyone else. With that, Jiujiu grabbed his machete and, swoosh, slit the guy's throat. Beth and the others were stunned. Beth hadn't expected such cold-blooded action. Carol was filled with a kind of admiration for Jiujiu's decisiveness. Tyrese was just shocked, unable to believe Jiujiu could be so ruthless. Jiujiu, unfazed, gave the body on the ground one more stab in the head. Living's hard enough as it is. But these guys are talking about killing people like they're nothing. They don't deserve to breathe. He stood up, turning to Carol and Beth. Beth, I think your sister and Glenn are under their control. But don't worry, I'm getting them out. Tyrese, Carol, you guys just stay here. Beth's worry ratcheted up immediately. She was concerned for her sister and Helen, sure, but even more worried about Jiujiu's safety. Carol, increasingly impressed with saw the concern in Beth's eyes and spoke up. Yes, right. Here's the plan, and I will handle the rescue. Beth, Tyrese, you hold down the fort. Remember, if they ain't with us, take them out. And keep an eye on Judith. With a look at each other, Carol and Jiujiu grabbed some flares and headed out toward the rescue station. Meanwhile, in the station's slaughterhouse, Rick, Bob, Daryl, Glenn, and 3 others were tied up, kneeling in front of a huge trough, waiting to be butchered. Jiujiu and Carol had already reached a small hill overlooking the station, taking in the barbed wire perimeter. Jiujiu lowered his binoculars. Carol, something seriously wrong here. If it's a rescue station, there should be a ton of people. But look, there are only a few dozen. So where'd everyone go? Based on what we heard on the radio, I'm betting they killed them, or worse. What do you think? Carol nodded, agreeing. Always assume the worst. That's what got her through, otherwise she wouldn't have killed Tyrese's girlfriend and another person who were infected with the disease. Through the binoculars, she saw hordes of zombies drawn to the fence, with a handful of armed women taking them down from behind the wire. Spotting a weak point in the zombie line, Jiujiu decided to breach the perimeter there and start taking out the cannibals one by one. He pointed to the spot. Okay, Carol, you'll be our pickup point. I'm going in, taking out the bad guys, and rescuing Beth's sister and your family. Jiujiu and the wolf warrior carefully slid down the hill. Carol worried about Jiujiu going in alone but put her trust in him. She had a plan to storm the place herself, but it was high risk. She only wanted to use it as a last resort. Through the binoculars, she watched Jiujiu and the wolf warrior move stealthily, quietly taking out zombies to avoid attracting more attention. They reached the barbed wire without wire cutters. The wolf warrior bent his tail and used the blade at the end to cut through the wire, making a hole big enough for them to slip through. Ignoring the fact that the breach would let zombies in, Jiujiu and the wolf warrior moved cautiously toward the station. They coordinated their attacks, taking down patrolmen with speed and silence, eliminating at least 10 armed guards. After each kill, Jiujiu wasn't afraid of exposing his ability and put all their weapons into the space. Naturally, Jiujiu's first stop was the slaughterhouse. Whether he could save Rick and the others in time was another matter. If he could, great. If not, whatever. Jiujiu wasn't a saint. His mission was to take out the cannibals. There was no rule saying he had to save anyone. As he snuck around, taking out the bad guys, this is what Carol was seeing through the binoculars. 016 Mechanical Trap Debut. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiujiu took down enemies with the skill of a seasoned hunter, impressing Carol. She doubted anyone else on their team could have moved as silently. This gave her confidence that Jiujiu could save them all. Maybe Jiujiu was lucky, and Rick and the others were too. After the first 3 had their throats slit, it was Glenn's turn. Jiujiu burst in to see a guy holding a baseball bat, ready to bash Glenn's head. Jiujiu aimed his crossbow and fired. The arrow flew, hitting the guy square in the head with a sickening thud. He dropped like a stone. Werewolf didn't hesitate. The silver metal body flashed as it lunged at the guy with the knife. The third attacker, Grace, the group's leader, saw Jiujiu and immediately went for his gun. He drew his pistol and fired at Jiujiu, but Jiujiu was too quick. At 7 agility, he dodged every shot. Gray watched in disbelief as his bullets missed. Meanwhile, Werewolf had taken down a knife-wielding attacker, biting his head clean off. Gray panicked. He fired wildly at Jiujiu while backing towards a small door. Werewolf finished with the knife guy and went for Grace, but Gray slammed the heavy iron door shut just in time. The wolf hit the door with a loud bang, bouncing back. Jiujiu called Werewolf back, then moved behind Glenn and the others. As he untied Glenn, he asked, "Who's Glenn?" "I'm Jiujiu, Beth's boyfriend. She sent me to rescue her family." That he untied Glenn first. Glenn ripped the gag from his mouth and said, "I'm Glenn. These are Beth's family too, Daryl, Rick, and Bob. And Beth's sister is locked in the container. We need to get them out." That he started helping Jiujiu untie the others. Jiujiu handed Rick the Glock, along with a 33-round magazine. Then, he gave Glenn the shotgun from his back and stuffed the bullet belt into his arms. "What are we waiting for? Let's go rescue Maggie and the others before they get to them." He spun around and charged out the door, Werewolf in the lead. The others were still in shock. 1 minute they were about to die, the next Jiujiu was there, taking down the attackers and scaring away Gray. And what about that metal dog? Glenn was worried about Maggie, Rick about Carl, Bob about Sasha, and Daryl felt responsible. So, they quickly followed Jiujiu out the door. Gray was already on the walkie-talkie, telling the others to surround Jiujiu and his group. He learned that a dozen people were missing, which made him furious. Those missing people were the real muscle. Sure, the women could fight, but it wasn't the same. Losing so many people was a huge blow. He wanted to kill Jiujiu and everyone he'd rescued. Gray knew he couldn't take on Jiujiu alone. He decided to gather everyone together and trap them. Although Gray acted quickly, Jiujiu found and killed several more people. He gave their guns to Glenn and the others who knew how to use them, like Maggie, Abraham, Rosita, and Sasha. The group fought their way back to the container and freed the rest of the prisoners. They handed out the guns. Jiujiu told them to form a team while he took on the cannibals himself. He wasn't trying to exclude them, but he planned to use a mechanical trap. He'd never used it before and didn't know how it would work, so he didn't want Glenn and the others around. After saying goodbye, Jiujiu and Werewolf used the containers as cover to sneak up on Gray and his people. They found Gray and the rest of his group near the weapons warehouse. Gray and dozens of others were gathered outside the warehouse, armed to the teeth. Jiujiu took in the layout, a little concerned, but he could handle this. Harassment, traps, sneak attacks, he'd take them down one by one. As Gray spoke, his face dark, Jiujiu burst from behind the container and started firing. The crossbow launched 3 arrows, hitting 3 people in the back of the head, 2 men and 1 woman. The whistling arrows startled Gray. He saw the bolts sticking out of his companions' heads and screamed, "He's behind us. Kill him!" He raised his rifle and charged toward Jiujiu. Jiujiu immediately retreated and set up the first mechanical trap in the gap between the containers. Meanwhile, Werewolf sneaked around Gray and his people, taking down the stragglers. Gray got lucky, tripping and falling behind the first few attackers. Those rushing into the gap triggered the trap. The device whirred, then exploded with arrows and steel balls. The containers contained the blast somewhat. Still, the 5 people closest to the trap were riddled with projectiles. 017 completed Mission 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. These 5 guys dropped dead without a peep, which sent shivers down the spines of the rest, quickly turning to rage. Some of them didn't even catch a glimpse of Jiujiu before they started spraying bullets everywhere. That's when Werewolf went on the attack, bursting from behind the group, sinking its teeth into one guy's throat, then batting another to death with a double claw strike. A whip-like tail then took out 3 more in a row. The 20 or so survivors finally noticed Werewolf's surprise attack. Seeing this freaky metal dog take out 6 people in a heartbeat, a cold dread crept into their bones. This thing was seriously messed up. What was it? Way scarier than the zombies. Luckily, these guys were stone-cold killers. Even with the fear gnawing at them, they raised their weapons and opened fire on Warwolf. But Warwolf wasn't about to stand there and get shot up. Even if the bullets didn't break its armor, a shot to the joints would still mess it up. After taking out those 6, it ducked back behind a container as soon as the shooting started. Jiujiu was no slouch either. While Warwolf was keeping them busy, he popped out from behind the container and let loose a volley of arrows from his mechanical crossbow. 5 quick shots, and 5 more went down. Now Gray was down to a little over a dozen, so many guys wasted in a front-and-back attack. Gray was spooked, plain and simple. He'd never run into anyone this lethal, even the gangs that had occupied, beaten, tortured, and humiliated them, even killed them. They were just relying on numbers. Their actual fighting skill wasn't that impressive, otherwise, his own guys wouldn't have offed them. Today, he was face to face with someone who was straight out of an action movie. He was seriously outmatched by Jiujiu, a straight-up fight. Dozens couldn't handle him, and a dozen odd were even worse odds. Escape. He didn't trust his chances of outrunning Jiujiu. This guy was dangerous, but he really couldn't figure out a way to deal with that big metal dog. Yeah, the best way to deal with a metal creature like Warwolf would be to blow it to bits with explosives. But here's the thing, Warwolf wasn't a hunk of junk. Its reflexes were plain for everyone to see. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, Gray split his crew in 2 to cover against attacks by Jiujiu and Warwolf. His goal was obvious: I can't beat Jiujiu, but I can fall back. Fall back to the warehouse and make a stand from the high ground. He didn't think that metal dog could jump 7 or 8 meters up the wall, no matter how tough it was, and if he was worried about it breaking in, he'd just rig the door with a few bombs. Worst case, they all went up together. Honestly, his plan wasn't bad. But Jiujiu wasn't about to let them get away with it, not with the mission on the line. He checked his progress: eliminate the leader, Gray, 0 to 1, and his crew, 36 to 61, just 1 boss and 15 goons left to go. No time to hesitate. He'd let Warwolf harass them for now, then he'd pick them off. He'd considered another trap, but the moment had passed. A trap's only a trap if it's unexpected. These guys weren't chasing anymore, so there was no opportunity to set one. The next thing he knew, Warwolf jumped down from a container and took out another guy, drawing all the fire. Warwolf was quick on its feet too, dodging left and right, avoiding most of the bullets. Even the shots that connected just pinged off the all-metal body, throwing off sparks. Jiujiu finally relaxed. He'd hoped the metal alloys synthesized with space smelting would be tough, but he hadn't expected them to be as crazy tough as Tony Stark's iron suit. Why hold back? Jiujiu mentally told Warwolf to keep dodging and take down as many as possible. Instead of leaping back out of sight, Warwolf spun around and charged straight at Gray and the others. Seeing Warwolf suddenly turn aggressive like that scared them out of their minds. The weaker ones started screaming and blindly squeezed off shots. With everyone distracted by Warwolf, Jiujiu came out from behind cover. He was a good 20 meters away, and he'd already switched to steel ball ammo. He raised the mechanical crossbow and started firing non-stop. All that target practice he'd done taking down zombies was paying off big time. The sharp sounds of steel balls cutting through the air rang out. 5 more of Gray's men dropped dead, hit by Jiujiu one after another. The unlucky ones took shots to the back and went down, unable to move. Jiujiu had no intention of going easy on these cannibalistic bastards. Trapped in a crossfire between him and Warwolf, Gray's gang of thugs went down like flies. Finally, only Gray was left, pinned to the ground by Warwolf, his limbs held in place. Jiujiu walked over, crouched down, looked at Gray's pale face, and said, "I feel for what happened to you at the beginning, but that doesn't give you an excuse to kill innocent people and eat human flesh. Go to hell and repent." With that, Jiujiu pulled out his Bowie knife and plunged it into Gray's head, ending his twisted life. As Gray died, the system chimed in again. "Congratulations, host, for completing Mission 3, eliminate the cannibal leader, Gray, and his crew. Leader Gray, 1/1, crew, 61/61. Mission completion reward, 1000 experience points. Hint, host has leveled up. Current level is 6. Acquired 5 attribute points, automatically allocated to the attribute panel. Please check the details, that he'd gotten 1000 experience points and another level. Jiujiu wasn't interested in his panel info, instead, he gathered all the guns and ammo scattered on the ground, putting them into his space, and headed toward Gray's warehouse. He'd seen on the screen that Gray had some good stuff in his warehouse, forget the guns and ammo. The real treasure was all the watches, gold, and diamond jewelry. He could bring that back to his own world and trade it for a ton of rice and gold. Jiujiu had a feeling that collecting metals from other worlds might not cut it for his future manufacturing and modding needs, and as far as he knew, the best metal was the metal in the Marvel world. He wouldn't mention adamantium, which was stored in S.H.I.E.L.D. and was hard to get. Vibranium was okay, but you had to buy it from Wakanda. Carbonadium, though not the hardest metal, had the characteristic of inhibiting the healing factor. Jiujiu thought that having such a weapon might play a big role in other worlds. You metal? This stuff was awesome and needs no explanation. It was unique to Asgard, so just think about it. 018 Detonation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Getting vibranium is a piece of cake, and you can synthesize Carbona if you find the right person. With his own plans in mind, Jiujiu transferred all the valuable items from the warehouse into his personal space. He left Rick and the others plenty of weapons and supplies. Meanwhile, Rick's group was fighting off zombies attacking the barbed wire perimeter. The gunshots had attracted a massive horde. Thousands of zombies surrounded them. Jiujiu waited, but Rick and the others didn't show. Hearing the constant gunfire, he figured out what was happening. He grabbed a rifle, ditching the mechanical crossbow, and headed out to the barbed wire. The fence was swarming with zombies. Rick and the others were firing like crazy to keep them from breaking through. Perfect, Jiujiu thought. This was exactly what he needed. If he could kill enough zombies, he might complete Hidden Mission 3 and finally get that mount he wanted. Walking forward, he yelled to Rick and the others, "I took care of those guys. The warehouse is full of weapons. Grab them before the zombies break through. I'll hold them off here." Everyone stopped shooting, turning to stare in disbelief at Jiujiu, who looked totally calm. Daryl, still desperate to get his crossbow back, urged the others to run to the warehouse. As they ran off, Jiujiu continued to shoot zombies, thinking about how to reach that 10,000 zombie kill count. Mechanical traps were the best bet. If used right, they could do the trick. Spotting an oil tank outside the fence, Jiujiu remembered Carol in the show using fireworks to blow it up, incinerating tons of zombies in the process. He decided a fire attack was a good option. His only worry was that kills by Rick and the others wouldn't count toward his total. He wanted his kills. Making up his mind, Jiujiu shot and retreated. Once he was behind a container about 300 meters away, Jiujiu aimed at the oil tank. He pulled the trigger, and the bullets ripped holes in the tank. Fuel gushed out, quickly spreading for about 10 meters, soaking the ground and many of the zombies. After waiting a few moments, until the fuel reached the wire mesh and spread across the concrete, Jiujiu aimed at the fuel-soaked ground and fired repeatedly. Finally, a bullet struck a spark, igniting the fuel. The fire roared to life, spreading rapidly toward the oil tank. A split second later, the tank exploded with a deafening boom. A massive fireball engulfed everything within dozens of meters, incinerating hundreds of zombies. The shockwave sent the surrounding zombies flying, tearing them to shreds. More zombies, now ablaze, stumbled toward the barbed wire, which had been partially destroyed by the blast. Those in front died, but the ones behind them trampled over their burning corpses. Pushing through, Jiujiu darted out from behind the container, setting a trap on the ground. Using the container as cover, he began shooting the scattered zombies that had already made it inside. He didn't want to waste his trap on just a few zombies. He needed to attract more. By now, Rick and his team were exiting the warehouse, fully armed with rifles, shotguns, and pistols. Even Michonne had a samurai sword strapped to her back and a rifle in her hands. They heard the explosion. Their faces fell, worried that the zombies had breached the perimeter. Forming a battle line, they rushed back. Almost 100 zombies had surrounded them. The lead zombie tripped the trap. With a hum, the trap launched into the air, unleashing a storm of arrows and steel balls over a 20-meter radius. Jiujiu watched as hundreds of zombies were instantly taken out, dropping like wheat before a scythe. He couldn't help but feel impressed. That trap packed a serious punch. Werewolf was also busy tearing through zombies. While it wasn't as efficient as the trap, it was faster than Jiujiu's gunfire. Since Werewolf was metal, the zombies ignored it, so it didn't even have to dodge. In just a few minutes, Jiujiu had taken out around 500 zombies. His task progress was now 825/10,000. Taking advantage of the lull, Jiujiu retrieved the empty trap and set a new one, continuing to shoot zombies to attract even more. When Rick and the others arrived, they were stunned by the sheer number of dead zombies. They'd never seen anything like it. Hundreds of corpses lay strewn across the ground. They all shared a single thought: how did he do it? Was he some kind of Rambo? Could he take on 1,000 people alone? There wasn't time to explain. Jiujiu shouted while shooting, "There's a trap up ahead. It has a 30-meter kill radius. Find cover. Once most of the zombies are down, go find Beth, Carol, Tyrese, and Judith." Hearing Jiujiu's warning about the trap, they were already amazed. Then, learning that Judith was alive, they were overjoyed, especially Rick and Carl, who were her closest relatives. The news that the little girl was alive brought tears to their eyes. When the trap launched and decimated all the zombies within 20 meters, everyone realized how incredibly powerful Jiujiu's trap was, and when they saw Werewolf, the metal dog, kill even more zombies than all of them combined, they chose to keep their mouths shut. They remained silent because Jiujiu was just too strong, too weird, to be honest. Neither Jiujiu's metal dog nor his powerful trap were anything they understood. 019 Exposing Eugene's Lies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. People just felt this guy, Yi, was way too mysterious, but Jiujiu still wasn't completely satisfied. His issue was the traps were too easily triggered. If only they could be invisible and remotely controlled. That would be sweet. Everyone pitched in and quickly cleared a safe path out. Jiujiu had to put his plan to stick around and grind on the walkers on hold. It wasn't because they were weak compared to him, but someone could easily get bitten or killed if they weren't careful. He couldn't forget Beth's sister, Maggie, and brother-in-law, Glenn, were in the group. If anything happened to them, Beth would never forgive him. Honestly, he didn't really care about the lives of these people. Unless it related to his mission, anyone was expendable, even the protagonist of this world. But Beth was his woman, at least for now. He couldn't be that cold. A happy ending was the goal, right? And as for the mission not being complete, he wasn't worried. 10,000 walkers weren't 10,000 ants. He couldn't just snap his fingers and get rid of them. Besides, Wolf Warrior had been going non-stop for almost an hour. If it ran out of juice, it would die out there. Even with his abilities, he wouldn't be able to rescue it from the horde. He could always build another Wolf Warrior, but he was attached to this one. It was his first mechanical pet. After all, he made up his mind. He'd recall the Wolf Warrior, charge it up, and then get Beth and her family out of the base. After charging up Wolf Warrior, the whole crew followed Jiujiu and fought their way out of the base to meet up with Beth and the others. As soon as they met, the system dinged. Congratulations. Hidden quest completed, rescued Rick and company. Reward, 500 experience points. Level up. Current level, 7, attribute points earned, 5, points automatically assigned. Check host details. Jiujiu was pumped. Not just about finishing the hidden quest, but also seeing Beth hugging Maggie, Glenn, Rick, and everyone else. He knew he couldn't stay in this world forever. He'd be forced to leave in a year, whether he liked it or not. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving Beth alone in this messed up world. Better to help her keep as many of her loved ones as possible so she wouldn't be completely isolated after he was gone. After the hugs and greetings, Jiujiu cut in. Alright, people. Let's get out of here, find a safe place, and you guys can chill out. Everyone's faces went blank. They might have thought he was being insensitive, but nobody argued. He had a point. They were surrounded by walkers. This wasn't exactly a 5-star resort. Rick, being the leader, stepped up and shook Jiujiu's hand to show his gratitude, then Maggie chimed in. As a sister, she was eternally grateful to Jiujiu for saving Beth and bringing her back. After that, they headed deeper into the woods, debating their next move. Listening to their doom-and-gloom talk, Jiujiu rolled his eyes. He wanted to tell them someone was already watching them with nefarious intentions. They were heading right into a trap even though he hadn't spotted anyone. He knew Aaron from Alexandria was keeping tabs on them from a distance. Jiujiu had a plan. He'd get everyone safely to Alexandria, then go solo to grind walkers and complete the mission. He would also collect more metals and valuables so he could make a killing with Vacan when he got back. After walking for about half an hour, they stumbled upon the Black Priest, Gabriel, cornered by a walker on a big rock. After rescuing him, they all headed back to Gabriel's church. With Jiujiu around, nobody paid much attention to Gabriel's weirdness. They were running low on food, so they just crashed for the night and took off in the morning. Gabriel joined the group after Jiujiu vouched for him. On the way, Abraham suggested they head to Washington, but Jiujiu shut that down real quick. Nope, not happening. There's no safe base or scientific team in Washington. It's all BS. Then, Jiujiu turned to Eugene and said. Okay, Mr. Liar. Care to tell them the truth? I'm not dragging you 1,000 miles to some imaginary Washington. If you don't come clean, I'm gonna kill you, no questions asked. Got it, Eugene the liar. Jiujiu whipped out his Bowie knife and held it to Eugene's throat. Eugene had never felt so close to death. He was terrified of Jiujiu, this freakishly strong and mysterious Chinese dude. On top of that, the mechanical dog was way too advanced. Nobody there could take him. Besides, after reuniting with Rick and the others, he didn't want to head to the non-existent Washington anymore, so, when Jiujiu grabbed him, he didn't resist. He just didn't know how to break the news. Abraham lost it when he saw Jiujiu threatening Eugene. As far as he was concerned, he should be dead already. If it wasn't for Eugene, he wouldn't be alive. Escorting Eugene to Washington to save the world was the only thing keeping him going. He wasn't going to let Jiujiu ruin that. Abraham roared. Let Eugene go, you damn Asian monkey. I won't let you hurt him. He charged at Jiujiu. Luckily, he had some sense left. He didn't pull a gun. He wasn't about to bite the hand that fed him by shooting Jiujiu. Of course, Jiujiu wasn't worried about Abraham shooting him. He was confident he could shove Eugene in front of the bullet before it hit. Plus, Wolf Warrior wouldn't let him get off a shot anyway. 020 Aaron and Sam from Alexandria. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sure enough, Warwolf tackled Abraham from the side before he could reach Jiujiu, slamming him to the ground. Weighing a ton, Warwolf was too much for Abraham. Pinned, he could only curse at Jiujiu and Warwolf. Get off me. Get off and fight me one-on-one, you Asian monkey. I'll knock your teeth out and feed them to the cows. You damn monkey, and you piece of crap. Rick and the others were skeptical, but Carol and Beth trusted Jiujiu completely. He had no reason to lie. Besides, Jiujiu had rescued everyone except Carol and her group, right? Rosita was torn. She wanted to defend Abraham, but she was starting to believe Jiujiu. She'd never fully trusted Eugene anyway. If Abraham hadn't been so convinced about Eugene, she wouldn't have followed him to Washington. They'd lost a lot of good people protecting Eugene along the way. She'd never really wanted to go to that bogus Washington in the first place. Seeing that Abraham was his only defender, Eugene gave up. Okay, fine. I'll tell you the truth. He motioned for Jiujiu to take the knife away. Jiujiu complied and waited for Eugene to speak. Eugene looked around. Everyone was silent except for Abraham, who was still yelling. Okay, here it is. I'm not a scientist. I'm just an otaku who knows a little about everything. The whole Washington thing was just a survival tactic. A guy like me, with no guts or fighting skills, needs protection, you know. And Washington is the capital. I figured we'd be safe there, right? I thought I was doing it for the best, but it turned out to be a nightmare. So many people died, and we didn't even make it halfway. Honestly, I don't even want to go to Washington anymore. Please forgive me. I had good intentions, okay? Eugene bowed deeply to everyone, especially Abraham and Rosita, even touching his head to the ground. He felt guilty about those two because Rosita's people had died because of him. Now that they knew the truth about Washington, everyone felt lost and directionless. Rosita and Abraham were devastated. Abraham, who had been fighting like crazy moments before, was now like a deflated bear, letting the wolf pin him, staring blankly at the sky, muttering to himself. Rosita was stunned, then shook her head in disbelief, tears streaming down her face. She felt betrayed, for herself, for Abraham, and especially for the people who had died. Rosita snapped. She raised her gun to shoot Eugene, who was still bowing. But Jiujiu reacted fast, moving at lightning speed to push her gun up before she could fire. He disarmed her and said sternly, like he said, even though he lied, he meant well. He just wanted to get to Washington. Think about it, if we could actually get there safely, wouldn't that be better than this? He just didn't consider the zombies between here and Washington. We never stood a chance of making it. I exposed him so you could all calm down and think about what we should do next. Jiujiu nodded at War Wolf to let Abraham go, then said, War Wolf, go get those people hiding out there. While everyone looked confused, Jiujiu called out, Hey! Friends, I know you're out there. I know you don't mean us harm, but following us without saying hello isn't exactly friendly, is it? I'm going to have my pet ask you to come out. You better follow him here nice and easy, or I can't guarantee you'll leave here alive. I promise you'll be safe if you cooperate. And I expect these two gentlemen to comply. Everyone tensed, even Rosita, still teary-eyed, readied herself for a fight. Only Jiujiu and the catatonic Abraham seemed unconcerned. Of course, Jiujiu wasn't really worried, while Abraham was just lost in his own despair. His dream had been crushed. Aaron and Sam were panicking, knowing how dangerous that metal dog was. They wanted to run, but Jiujiu's warning stopped them. They couldn't outrun that metal dog anyway. Besides, Aaron had almost finished scouting Rick and the others, and he had been planning to reach out to them soon. But then Jiujiu showed up and blew their cover. Since Jiujiu wanted to meet, Aaron and Sam decided to wait. Soon, everyone saw two surprisingly clean men being escorted by War Wolf. Raising their hands, Aaron said, Hi. Hello, everyone. We don't mean any harm. I'm Aaron, and this is my friend Sam. Like your friend said, we're here to invite you to our community. If you'll give me a moment, I'll explain our situation. Everyone stared, skeptical and disbelieving. But Jiujiu said, War Wolf and I spotted you a while ago. You've been lurking around since we got here. If you're here to recruit, then show us some sincerity.